So I'm really excited about this talk. This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with when it comes to LinkedIn and how to connect with employers, especially when you don't know who that person is, when that contact is either a third connection or even sometimes a second connection when you don't necessarily have a relationship with them. So I'm really excited about Luki's take on it. Before I get to that, I wanted to do a little bit of an introduction to Mintbean and what we're all about. For those of you that are familiar with Mintbean and the lots of different programs that we do. You've most likely, hopefully, participated in a learnathon. I'd love to see maybe in the chat if anyone has attended a learnathon or another workshop or is on the Discord channel so that I can maybe not ramble on about some of the programs that you might already be aware of on Discord. So awesome. Has anyone attended a learnathon? Which is like our new spin to the hackathons, because the word hackathon is really scary. I'm on Discord. I just joined the escape room learnathon. Awesome. Yeah, that's our current week's learnathon, and the developers are building a virtual escape room, and it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to the projects that come out of that one, Tatiana. So it's going to be super cool. Anyone else has ever attended a Mintbean event prior to this one? Would love to know. Yes. So, okay, great. Awesome. So like I said, we host weekly learnathons, and everything that we do inside Mintbean is to really close the tech talent gap, whether it comes to looking for new work or whether it comes to leveling up your technical skills. And recently we launched a new program called the Dev Collective. I'm sure you guys have seen us mention it here and there. But I wanted to also mention something that we haven't been talking about, is that there are a number of scholarship tracks that you can apply to. There's about 6 of them. So forgive me if I don't remember all of them from the top of my head. I believe so you can actually get the entire price. It's like there's different like structures on the scholarship, and you can get the entire program fee completely for free. Or I think there's also like a maximum 75%. There's a diversity, equity, inclusion there. So if you're a woman in tech, if you're a visible minority, we also have, if you require financial assistance, if you've been looking for work for more than 6 months, if you've been maybe if I should have probably opened up my file in order to go through these. But then we also have a technical assessment piece. So do apply for it and let me know if you fit into any of those categories. I'd love to make that program more feasible for you guys. So without further ado, I want to get to the workshop. Thank you for listening to my plug. Luki, come on. I feel like the price is right. Come on down.
Yay, and then I have to do kind of the running down and high five everyone on the way, right? So
We should totally have that.
there you go. Thanks, Thomas.
Bob, pick me. Oh, that was a fun show. Reminded me of my high school. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. A little bit about your background. I'd love to know, tell the audience sort of, I know that career coaching has been something that has been a lifelong journey for you, but I'd love to give the audience a little bit more of a snippet of what are some of the things that you're currently working on, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a career coach, for lack of a better word. I like to say that I found my purpose helping others find theirs is kind of my tagline. But I started, not unlike yourselves, as computer science, right? So I did computer science in my undergrad. I was a coder and developer starting out, and as luck would have it, I joined a consulting firm. So it was one of those where I wanted one of the big guys, like at my time, it was IBM and Microsoft were the big ones. But I had to.
Are pretty big.
Yeah, they're still pretty big, but people still like the Apples and the Googles instead, right? So that's why some of them like don't know IBM as much. and I end up joining one of the big four accounting firms. And I'm like, oh man, I'm a coder for an accounting firm. What the heck is this? But I joined their consulting side. So for those that know consulting, we help companies do things better. And for my side, it was technology. So I spent over 12 years there, did a lot of cool things from coding to business analysis, technical work, testing, change management, training, project management, advisory, and I used to run their undergrad campus recruiting program too, was heavy into the talent management part. So a lot of the stuff that I share on anything kind of recruiting related comes from that experience. And now I've kind of done my own self-exploration and figured out what do I want to do with my life, my career and all that. And I found that career coaching was what I love doing, right? So now I um, produce content. I write books, working with Mintbean and Zero Project to create an app, which hopefully will come out in the next little while. And yeah, a whole bunch of different things. I wrote a book. It's called Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, which kind of sums me up, right? So a lot of the things come from my experience and kind of say, well, why aren't they teaching this stuff in school, right?
Yeah, I
So
wish there
hopefully
was
I'm
a
bringing
course
more of
for
that.
that.
Yeah, and if I have my way, there will be, because that's kind of what I'm planning to do over the next little while.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna pass it over to you, and yeah, let's get into LinkedIn.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen, and can everybody see my screen full screen? If you can give me a thumbs up if you're visual, or like something in the chat if you're not, that would be perfect. And I'd love to make it interactive. If folks want to chat and ask questions, feel free to do that. But we went through my introduction a little bit. Computer science, management consulting, recruiting, stuff like that. I also do some teaching. So with one of the local colleges, I also help do some startup advisory with many kind of youth organizations. I'm actually a mentor at one of the university incubators out on the East End, and help people in that regard. A dad of two kids for anybody who are in that same boat. And unfortunately, we just got notified that we're kind of close contact for someone who got tested positive for COVID. So my kids are just upstairs and they're kind of jumping up. So hopefully you don't hear too much, but they're home with me in kind of self-isolation. But so that's kind of me in a nutshell. But I'd love to learn more about the folks here. So if you don't mind typing like, what are you doing now? So if you're a student, if you're looking, if you have an ideal job, a company that you want to work for in a role, if you have a fun fact, some of the fun facts that I share about myself is I love spicy foods. So if any of you who love spicy foods, let's come and grab a meal together, but not like the numbing or the vinegary spice. I like kind of like the garlicky, flavory spice. So if anybody likes that, then hopefully when things open up, we can grab a meal together. And how would you rate your skills in LinkedIn on a scale of 1 to 10? So 1 being low, 10 being high. So if we can start populating stuff in there. And if anybody has any specific questions on LinkedIn, I'd love to get their insights in terms of what sort of specific things they want to get out of it. So I'll give folks a minute to start populating, and as answers start coming in, then I'll continue on. So we got a couple fives. Bootcamp grads, recent comp sci, software dev, and yeah, love spicy food. There you go. So we have some people that I could go and have a meal with. Um, and for those that are willing, so thanks to the folks that do have their cameras on and are enabled, it usually makes it a little bit easier for me to have a kind of an engaging presentation, because it's hard talking to a wall of names or thumbnails. But so for folks that are able to get on camera, I would really appreciate that. So it seems like that, well, 5 on LinkedIn. So people are kind of on the halfway mark. That probably means they know a few things, but they want to know a little bit more. So hopefully I'll be able to give you a lot of good information. And again, if you have any specific questions, you can either raise your hand or you can type it in the chat, and I'll do my best to kind of pick out all the questions there. So for me, I want to start with a backdrop of, first of all, networking, right? So for those that know, LinkedIn is really a platform for networking and connecting, right? It's also a job board that you can use, but a lot of the power comes from connecting. So my approach to connecting is what I call build meaningful connections, right? I start on the back end by making connections, and LinkedIn is a great tool to do that. You have basically access to pretty much anybody on the platform. then you have to make them meaningful, right? Because sometimes you connect with people and that's it, right? You've never spoken to them again, right? But the power of the platform is to stay connected and to build on those connections afterwards. So when you think of networking, a lot of people have that kind of icky, disgusting feelings like, I hate networking, I don't want to do that. And myself too. That's because most people approach networking like hunting versus farming, right? Most people, they're looking for that elephant, that whale, and they're like trying to get it, boom. But once you kill that animal, it's gone, right? Whereas I encourage you all to start planting seeds. Go out there and plant seeds, build those connections, and then over time, you got to water it. You got to take away the weeds. You got to give it some sunshine. And after a while, oh, here's some fruit, right? Because if you think about it, the person on the other side is a human being, right? None of us want to be used. None of us want to feel like a transaction. So don't use other people in the same way. So when you treat other people like human beings, then you'll kind of get that reciprocating results. And if you network not to get a job, but instead to be curious, interested, and add value, if you think of it as an investment in your future, well, then you'll get a lot more results as a result. So I use that as a backdrop. And then one thing that I also share is that my answer to pretty much every how to network question is to care, right? So think about that for a minute. When you connect with someone, how are you caring for them, right? If you're connecting with them as a recruiter for the purpose of getting a job, that doesn't sound like caring, right? That's not something that you would appreciate. There's a reason that at 7 o'clock at night, when you get a call for a telemarketer, you hang up, right? Uh, that's what happens because most people don't want to be a transaction. They don't want to be used, right? But if you're treating people in the same way, well, you're probably going to get very similar results, right? So thinking about it as caring. And one way I encourage folks to think about it is imagine it in the context of dating, right? Too many people out there want the one night stands. Like they hope and pray that, hey, could you come back to my hotel room because yeah, I got something for you there. Well, that's not a great way to build a relationship, right? Oftentimes you at least want to take them out to dinner first, right? Wine them, dine them a little, and then that job is almost like a marriage, right? You have to commit to that person for at least a period of time, right? Hopefully there's no divorcing or whatever happening, but it's really up to the people involved. So just thinking about that and changing your perspective in terms of networking, right? And LinkedIn is a great tool to do so. Now, with anything, a tool is just a tool. If you use it well, then it can be awesome and powerful. If you don't use it so well, it could be horrible and not useful at all, right? So it really depends. So LinkedIn 101. In my opinion, I like to call LinkedIn a networking event that's happening 24/7, 365, right? The hundreds of million, I think the last count was like 700 million, something like that, people that are on the platform you have access to. Just like at a networking event, if you had someone in the room, you could go and tap them on the shoulder and reach out to them, right? The senior manager, director, VP of a particular company, a lot of CEOs are even on there, right? Um, they're available. So for those that know, it was acquired by Microsoft, but it operates pretty independently. So whether your team, Microsoft or Google or Apple or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's really operated as a separate entity, right? It's awesome as a news source for those that are in business, in tech. It's a great area for you to get kind of the latest and greatest that's coming out. People will often post in terms of new developments and things like that. It's a job board, right? So you can get hired, and a lot of people do get hired on LinkedIn. There are some companies that I know, they exclusively hire off of LinkedIn. They don't even post on the Indeeds and the whatevers anymore because they don't have access to all the other stuff. They can kind of stalk you on LinkedIn and see what you're up to see if you're the type of person that they want to connect to. It's a learning platform. They acquired lynda.com a while ago and now it created LinkedIn Learning. And there's a whole bunch of curated courses for you to be certified from anything business, tech, or whatever. A lot of different things that are available there. And in my opinion, the most important part, it's a connection platform. Back to that networking event happening 24/7, you can connect with pretty much anyone that's on the platform, right? Now, the challenge or the difference between a networking event is that on LinkedIn, it's actually quite easy to ignore you, right? It's probably hard for someone that if they're sitting in front of you in a networking event for them to ignore you. On LinkedIn, it's a slightly different story, but at least you have that opportunity, right? So treat that as kind of a bonus. And a couple of best practices is on LinkedIn, unlike some of the other networking platforms, they have the ability to send a personalized connection request, right? So not just connect, you can actually send a note with a connection. And I always recommend folks to send one, right? I always recommend you do it. The only case where you don't need to do it is if the person is like right in front of you, right? And you're connecting at an event and they're literally right in front of you. But sometimes it's useful to have it, right? Uh, if you compare that to basically what you're doing in real life, why you really need to send one is if you the equivalent scenario in real life is for you to find someone that you wanted to connect to, the senior manager director of a company, and you tap them on the shoulder at an event, and you look at them and you go, isn't that a pretty awkward experience, right? Someone comes up to you, they tap you on the shoulder and they go, it's like, yes, and what do you want? Are you going to say something? Are you going to tell me why you're connecting with me? Like, if you don't send that personalized connection request, they're bound to just turn around and continue their conversation with their friends, right? But if you send that one, that doesn't mean they won't still do that, but at least you're more likely. And I think the statistic is 7 times more likely. So 700% more likely, right, for someone to accept if you send that connection request, right? Um, and try not to make it again that like you're hunting. Make it more like you're farming. Connect with them at our personal level. Be curious and interested and add value, right? I encourage folks to be responsive, turn on your notifications. Some people connect on LinkedIn or check it like once a week, and they turn off notifications because they want to do like that social media detox and stuff like that. But I've had people where, you know what, I'm going to only check on Sunday night. And what happened to them is on Sunday night, they checked it, no messages. On Monday, they got a request from a recruiter, hey, we'd like to bring you in for an interview on Friday. And then they checked it on Sunday, right? So especially if you're on a job search, like turn on notifications, right? If you're going on like the social media detoxes or whatever, yeah, you can turn it off or whatever, but connect, be responsive, and be on the platform. Another thing that I recommend you to do is to connect anyways, right? For those that know Wayne Gretzky, the great one, he has a quote that's often cited: "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take." And I actually follow that on with, well, the answer is already no, right? So that technical lead, the director, senior manager, whatever the company, well, you're already not connected with them. You're already not having a Zoom call with them. You're already not having coffee with them. You're already not asking them questions about their career. So the answer is already no. But what if they accept? What if they say yes? What if they answer pretty much everything that's out there, right? Well, what kind of amazing opportunity is there? And if the answer is no, you're no worse off. So you might as well connect, right? The other part is to engage and be part of the community as well, because the algorithm helps work. You help the algorithm work for you, and it helps get yourself out there, and you're more proactive than reactive. So a couple of bad practices on the flip side. So these are actually messages that come from my connections, right? These are actually real messages that people send me. So the first one is from a student, right? This is the first message they ever send me, right? So I'm a student in my final year with 2 years of software experience in software dev. Would you be able to help me get a job? Right? And I remember, compare that in the context of dating. So that's like someone coming up to you at a bar, at an event, and saying like, hey, I'm young, eligible, and have some qualities that would make me a good husband or wife. Would you help find someone to marry me? What's the likelihood of you helping that person, right? Well, if you're on a really generous day, maybe, but it's probably 99 times no and 1% yes, right? So just being aware of how you're coming off when you're sending these messages to other people, right? Another one is, hey, so this is a person I did meet, but very briefly in an event. I met you at an event last night and you mentioned you were looking to hire. Could you take a look at my resume and see if I'm a fit, right? Which is kind of the equivalent to saying, hey, we met for 5 minutes yesterday and you don't really know anything about me. Can you take a look at my online dating profile and see if you'd like to marry me? Again, probably not the great thing. At least, again, take me out to dinner first, have a conversation, know a little bit of my interest or whatever. So these aren't great practices. So the more that you're more curious and interested, the more likely that you'll get a response. So the profile, this is one of the big things on LinkedIn, and a lot of folks think it's just like your online resume, but it's a little bit more than that, right? You can have a little bit more information in your LinkedIn than a particular, sorry, just on your resume. So it starts with a profile picture, and I encourage everyone to have a profile picture. As shy as you are, so for those that remember, I'm shy and introverted, right? At least that's how I started initially. But because I've been able to kind of grow and develop, and I put myself out there, then I'm able to develop kind of these kind of outgoing characteristics. But after a session like this, I'll be like, I'm glad that's over because this is not normally me. But I've worked to the point where I can do presentations. But naturally, I'd rather be reading a book or on my own, playing with my kids. I wouldn't want to be in a big group of people. So as much as I don't want to be out there, I know that it's necessary and important. So have a profile picture, have a picture of you. And the analogy that I use is, let's say you're in the market for a new phone, right? Whether your team Android or Apple, doesn't really matter, or another one, you're in the market for a new phone, and the specs come out, and all the technical specs are great. That the memory is good, the new camera is great, all of the speed of it is amazing, and everything looks good. The dimensions look amazing, but it doesn't have a picture. Would you buy that phone? Well, come on, a phone. It's a phone. Like, how different is it going to be? They're all kind of the same. They're basically the same, right? But you're curious, like, wait, does that phone have confidence issues that it doesn't want to be out there and is not available? Because everybody else has their picture out there, but you don't. So what is that telling about you? So have a picture, right? It doesn't have to be taken by a professional. It has to look somewhat professional, whatever professional is for you, right? So depending on the type of company, however dressed up that you want to be, have something there so that it's not an obstacle. Background picture, you can change the background, and in a little bit I'll actually go into LinkedIn so I can kind of show some of the stuff so that you can take a look at it. Headline, you want to make it compelling, right? The headline defaults as your last job, but you can actually change it and make it different, right? Because what often happens is that's the two things that they see. The developer, the recruiter or the searcher will see the picture, and they'll also see the tagline. And if your search comes up and it says like developer, full stack developer, backend developer, or coding ninja that has been producing bug-free code for the past 12 months, which one are you going to click on? I'm going to click on that guy. That sounds interesting, or that girl, whoever it is, because that's more interesting versus developer, right? So make it compelling and interesting because they have hundreds, thousands of search results that come out, and you want to be stand out a little bit by making yourself a little bit more compelling. The about section, think of it as like a cover letter, but more than that, it's like, what do you want them to know about you if a recruiter, if your future boss goes on your page? So have them in mind and welcome them and tell them something more than just what's on your experience, right? Your experience, that's kind of like your resume, right? You can put all that information out there, but making sure that all the information from the job postings that are out there, if you've done it, put it on your experience, right? The thing is, when people are searching and that information is not on your profile, how does it find it? Right? You code the algorithm to find that, right? How can you find things that's not available and in the database, right? So you need to make sure that it's in there. If you've done it, put it in there, right? It doesn't have to be limited to the 1-2 page limit that a resume has. So there's a lot more information that you can put in there. Volunteer and interests, again, helps you with the algorithm, and LinkedIn search results. So I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm going to hop into LinkedIn. Can everybody see my browser and LinkedIn? Thumbs up if I can, or in the chat, yes. Okay, awesome. So this is my profile. Your profile is going to be slightly different. But one thing that I want you to take a look at is, this is your picture, right? Oh, this is my picture, not your picture. This is the background part that I mentioned. So if it's kind of the default blue and green, it's as if you didn't even bother, right? So change it as something, go to like Pexels or Unsplash or one of those royalty-free sites and change it with something, right? Something that's tech related. If you want to have, if you're in a particular area of tech, right? If you're more kind of the machine learning or supply chain or whatever it is, but something that's interesting for you and more compelling. This is the tagline, right? So making sure that you change that to what's suitable for yours. What you can also do is go find someone else's profile that you admire, that's doing the stuff that you enjoy, and borrow theirs, right? Slash copy slash plagiarize, but acquire it and paraphrase it so that it meets your needs, right? Because nobody likes plagiarism, but paraphrasing is common practice, right? What's the expression? Um, Something is the well, anyway, it's when you do the same thing, it's comparable flattery. Oh man, I'm totally butchering that. But anyway, so this is a tagline that you want to have in there, right? This is the about section. Again, find someone's and copy it, right? Or adapt it to yourself. Grab a couple of them. So if you like 25% of that, 50% of this, 10% of that, grab the components that align with you, right? Don't plagiarize, but make it your own. Make it compelling. Make it what do you want them to know about you? They have this new stuff that's featured. So this is where stuff like your GitHub could go, any sort of portfolio work that you have, any websites that you've created, web apps or whatever, you can have that featured at the top, right? It's a little bit more apparent than putting it in your about, and because it's sticks and is available there. This is an interesting one. So this is available only to you, and they have this feature called search appearances. So I'm going to go into that, which I encourage everyone to take a look at. So this is how many times you came up in search, where they work, what your searchers do, and this is what I think is most interesting. Keywords your searchers used, right? So you want these to be relevant for you, right? Program officer, I'm not so thrilled that people are searching for that. Career coach, absolutely. Founder, I'm okay with that, right? I used to get a lot of connections for, hey, we have this role. This is early in my career, but we have this role that needs like VBA and Excel macros, right? I don't want to be doing that stuff, but I kept coming up because I had a bunch of co-op terms that had all that, and I appeared on search results. So what did I do? I deleted it because I didn't want them to be searching me on that. And I kind of search engine optimized my profile so that I came in the relevant things. So you're going to have to take a look at it. If you don't like what's here, then you might have to adjust the things on your profile, right? And you have to do it in a smart way. You have to do it in an honest way. But if it's not what you want, then just be aware of that, right? So activity, this is some of your engagement. You want your experience to be here. You want it to be searchable. All the stuff that appears on the different job descriptions that you're applying for, you want it to appear here, right? Education. For those of you who are recent grads and don't have work experience, you can put information under education for any coursework, any assignments, anything there, and they'll appear on the search results. Now, maybe not as high as someone who has work experience in that, but it'll appear, right? If you have any like certifications or other qualifications, you can also put those there, volunteering and things like that. And there's also, I think, yeah, accomplishments. So if you placed in any of the Mintbean competitions or whatever, you can put all that stuff in there as well. So that's kind of a brief overview of my LinkedIn profile. And I wanted to offer up folks, if folks are willing to or want their profile, we'll be able to maybe do one or two of them, to put their LinkedIn on the chat, kind of on a first come, first serve basis. We'll put it up there, and by putting it in the chat, you are agreeing to that it'll be displayed, and then we'll get feedback for you, right? So if anybody is willing and interested and available, please put in the chat. Oh, we have a winner. All right, so Tom will get you there, and maybe if we have some time for Ken, we'll do that too. All right, and for those of you who didn't put your name in, follow along and see, well, does that also apply to my profile? So I guess a couple questions. What do you think? Right, now that you all have a bit of guidance on that, what are some things that you would change, or what are the things that you like? So for me, a good picture. I'm a fan of people smiling, right? So for me, if you think about it, would you rather hire this guy, or would you rather hire this guy? Like, same thing. This guy, right? Pretty easy call. Most people will pick the person who's smiling. Avoid the like the arms crossed, like the sunglasses, or like the picture where you're like a full body and your head is like this tiny because you're like way in the distance. Avoid those ones. Show that you're confident. Just a smile. I'm not that pretty. I'm not that whatever, but who cares? Just have that picture so that they don't even care whether it's there or not. Most people don't care. Most people don't really look. They just kind of take a look at that initial one. Is there a picture? Does it look reasonable? Um, and keep on going, right? I like the background. This is a nice one. Lots of coding in there. So you can get creative on that, or you can just kind of pick standard ones. So here's one where I might change. Full stack, web developer, JavaScript, React Node. So those are great things to have in there, but what else? Because chances are pretty much 80%, 90% of the people here, it'll probably say the same thing, right? So if you can put something more interesting and compelling, well, then you'll probably stand out more, right? The about, what you are, great. But what do you want them to know, right? Is this a compelling story? Does this make me want to hit connect, right? Maybe, maybe not, right? So find the areas that you're interested in. I don't see like a features one, so I assume that you have like a GitHub or something that you could put in there. So put that in your features, or put here in terms of links and stuff like that, because a lot of folks, especially in the dev world, they want or whatever. It doesn't have to be your GitHub or whatever your portfolio is being stored, right? Looks like you have some good activity that's in there, so you're connecting. One thing that I recommend, so instead of putting like the very generic comments like congrats, wow, awesome, I totally agree, whatever, make it a little bit more meaningful. Actually reference something that's within it. It's like I really like what you said on bullet point 3 of your article, like blah, blah, blah. I had a similar experience there, right? It makes it seem like that you actually took the time to do that. And the interesting thing, when you engage, that's an easy way to connect with that other person, right? You engage with their with their post, you comment, you like it, and then you say, hi, Luki, how are you doing? I loved your post on blah, blah, blah. Would love to connect and learn more, right? So something as simple as that. One thing you might want to do, change, like you're not really a student, right? Well, you are, but try to be a little bit more creative with that, right? And like aspiring well, you are a developer, right? Whether you were a student doing that, you were a coder and developer doing that, right? More experience. So again, you have to be careful if you have if you're career switching and have unrelated work experience, because you might actually get pulled up in search results for the stuff that you don't want to be hired for, right? So you can minimize, you can delete, or have only a few of them, and then really focus on some of the other ones. Again, if you have more experience, that's like from academic versus work experience, then you can put it down here. Skills and endorsements. These are useful because there are actually some jobs out there that are using LinkedIn, and they actually compare you against this list, right? Not all jobs do that, but more and more employers are coming up, and I'm not sure if I got it jobs, but some of them will actually show a list. No, this one doesn't have it, but there's some of them that actually show the list of those competencies, and it'll match it up against these ones and say you match 8 out of 10, you match 12 out of 15, you match whatever. So the more that's here, the more likely that you'll appear, and the more likely they'll appear on your search results as well, right? So just be aware of that. Interests and things that you are affiliated with, the more of the relevant stuff will come in your profile. So overall, I mean, I think it's a good start. A little bit of a cleanup on it. I like where it's going here. More of your portfolio type of work in there, and then how you interact with people, I think will be great. Does that help, Thomas?
It does. Thank you for your feedback. I have one quick question.
Of course.
Backtrack a little bit on the connections.
Mhm.
One issue I'm sure everyone here can relate to a little bit is the amount of spam sometimes we get on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So in our position, how do you handle and how do you filter through people actually trying to connect with job opportunities, with people who are just, a random message saying, hey, I would like to discuss a business opportunity with you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's really how high your risk tolerances are or not, right? So for me, I pretty much accept everyone. unless they're like very like I don't know, like a Nigerian prince that is asking me for like all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Apart from it being very blatant, I actually let people connect. But then if the first message is like one of those like bad practice ones, like, hey, I'd love to sell you whatever, then it's like,
Yes.
thank you, and then I disconnect. Right?
Okay.
I allow people to connect because I live by API and more on the assume positive intent. My
Okay.
assumption is that people are good people in
Yeah.
general, right? And I believe that if I live my life assuming that everyone's a good person, then I will probably reap those rewards. If I assume that everyone's a bad person, that's probably who I'll get to, right? So I assume they're good, and once I realize that they don't have kind of honest motives, then
Yeah.
I kind of stop it, right?
That's a
But
great way to look at it.
that's me, right? It's really up to you because sometimes it's very blatant. Even on that first message, even on their profile or whatever, you know exactly what they're doing. But generally speaking, I will pretty much accept everyone. Make sure you don't give out your credit card information, your social security, bank
Yeah.
account, and all that sort of stuff. So all that good stuff. So just be aware of that. But I generally accept everyone. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. It's
Thanks.
helpful.
Cool. All right. So I'll try to get through the rest of my content, and then if we have time, I'll probably do a few more. So thanks for those who did put their profiles there. But a couple things that I wanted to um, talk about is engagement, right? So why is it important? One, it helps the algorithm, but it becomes more proactive versus reactive, right? So when you follow hashtags, when you start commenting and liking and whatever, then the algorithm knows that you like this. Now the algorithm works by how long you spend on it and which you click on and all that sort of stuff. But the more that you engage with, the more likely it's able to give you that content, right? Because it and the other thing is when you like, when you comment, when you share, you appear on other people's feeds, right? And other people get to see it. Who is this Luki person who keeps coming up, right? Who is this whomever person that keeps talking about tech or full stack or whatever? And the more that you engage with actual like meaningful content, where you actually reply to it and you gave him an answer or solution, right? The more likely that that person's going to take notice, right? Is it going to be 100%? No, but is it going to be more than zero? Yes, right? So it's somewhere in there where you become more proactive when you're out there. Now it becomes difficult. So what I encourage everyone, if they're willing to go into LinkedIn, go through your feed, find one post and like it, comment on it, share it, right? It could be a Mintbean post. It could be the post where you found this. It could be my latest post, whatever it is. It could be anything. And tag someone, right? That could be another thing where if you're adding value, last conversation, who would benefit from knowing this information? Hey, Luki, I thought of you when I read this. Hey, Thomas, hey, whomever, I thought of you when doing that. Maybe a last conversation, maybe someone from your old workplace or a classmate or whatever. Those are ways to stay connected, right? That's a way to invest in your relationship. And the question would be, what's holding you back? So when I first started using LinkedIn, I was a lurker. Right? I just sat there scrolling, going through stuff. I never commented. I never did anything like that. But it's losing the power of the platform, right? And even growing up, another example that I usually use is that whenever there was like a performance or whenever there's like an entertainment thing, like there was a magician on stage and say, "Do I have any volunteers?" I would never put up my hand. I'd be like, "Why would you want to be on stage with the possibility that they might make fun of you or make a fool of that?" But the person on stage, they'd come back down and they'd be laughing and smiling and having an amazing time. And then I realized, oh, I'm missing that, right? So now my approach to life is whenever someone asks for a volunteer, I'm almost one of the first ones to put my hand up because why not? You're here anyway. Instead of being kind of a wallflower in the back, why don't you actually immerse yourself in life, right? So my perspective, not necessarily yours, but it's one of those things. Well, you're here, so you might as well uh, uh, participate and go through the process, right? And for those of you who are afraid of things like judgment and those people who might kind of rail on you for certain things, was too, right? My first post that I ever did, I couldn't even look at the post button. I had to go, and then I had to hit post, right? And then I realized, oh, like 2 people read it, 1 person liked it. So it's not like the world is watching anyway. but then 100 people like it, and then 5 people read it, or well, the other way around, whatever it is, the people who like it will like it, and the people who don't, it probably wasn't for them anyway, right? It's just one of those things. Participate in life, and you'll probably be able to reap the rewards. So go in there, like a post, and every day, or multiple times a day if you can, just interact with your feed. I need to be a little bit better on that, because I haven't made as much time for LinkedIn this past little while, but I try to do that. Well, for a while I was doing it diligently, multiple times a day even. Now on connecting, right? So for those, I encourage you, I'm going to paste my URL for those that want to connect. And for anybody who is willing for other people to connect with them, also paste your URL below mine, right? So if you are willing to have other people connect, then paste yours. And I encourage you to connect with pretty much everyone here. But before you do so, send a personalized connection request, right? Which means you look at that person's profile and you see what is interesting about them. So actually, you will use Tom's as an example, right? So if I were to connect with him, there's actually a feature where if you look at this, I can't connect with Tom, right? If I do click on here, LinkedIn will ask me to pay some money, right? Because that's how they make money. They're wanting people to connect. But what I can do, because LinkedIn doesn't want to stop you from connecting, they just want to make it a little bit more difficult so they can collect their money. So you click on these 3 dots and click on connect, and then always add note. And then now I can type something to him, right? So before I add the note, what I'll do is I'll take a look at it. So full stack developer, so I can relate to him and say, hey, I was in computer science, I did some stuff in tech. Situation on that, it's like, yeah, we're all dealing with stuff during the pandemic. We don't have any common connections, right? So oftentimes one of my easy ways to connect with people is if we know people. Because, hey, how do you know Luki? How do you know Navi? How do you know whoever else? If you reference someone that's in common, that's often a usual good way to connect, assuming that they know this person, assuming that they have a good perception of this person too. But again, assume positive intent. I'm assuming that they do. You can talk about curiosity, right? So, you have an interesting path having gone from like a table dealer to computer science. How did that happen, right? Maybe some specific questions in regards to that. Like I mentioned, the posts are an easy way to connect. Try to avoid connecting with them on their current work if that's where you want to work as well, right? So if it's whatever, like a Shopify and you want to work there, it's like, hey, I saw that you work at Shopify. I would love to connect with you there, right? Probably not a great first entryway to them. But try to find something that's of interest. If not, it could be an event like this. We're both at the event. Would love to connect to learn a little bit more, right? So when you send that connection request, oops, I can't do that. Connect, add a note. Hi, Tom. How are you doing? Thanks for volunteering your profile at the Mintbean event. I'd love to connect and learn more. I just sign off with Luki. So they can be short and sweet, and they have to be short because there's a character limit on there. But try to, and as quick as you can, show a little bit of expression and interest. Try to be as specific as possible, because if you have the generic of, hey, I want to expand my network, you're more likely to get ignored versus, I was looking at this specific article and this particular part, and I really want to connect you because of that, right? That people are more likely to connect. So Tom, you should be getting something there. And then what happens is that person now gets an invitation to say Luki's connected or whoever's connected, and they will pick accept or reject, right? So that's the unfortunate part, which is different than an in-person one, is that they can hit reject. But if they hit accept, you get a request saying, or you get a notification that they accepted. And what a lot of people say, yes, I'm hoping they continue the conversation. But they don't, because that accept is already their return conversation. So once someone accepts, I encourage you to initiate and say, oh, hi, Tom, thanks for connecting, or Thomas, because, well, actually, no, it does say Tom here, so I can reference it. Hi, Tom. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. How has your week been? Something just to spark the conversation, right? And then see if they respond back, and then continue on in that vein, right? So don't automatically assume that they'll respond back once you accept. So connect, send a personalized note, and for those that haven't yet put the information there, hopefully you can put your connection information, and then build a lot of connections here, right? And I mentioned how to connect beyond 3 degrees, right? So you click on the 3 dots. On the mobile app, you need to do the same thing. So it's either an arrow or 3 dots, depending on which platform you're on. Also, to send a personalized connection request, because it doesn't have the prompts on mobile, you'll have to click those 3 dots and click send personalized connection request. You need a separate option on your mobile. So just be aware of that. For those that are saying, oh, I can't send a personalized note on my mobile. You have to do that a little bit differently. And then making it meaningful, right? Because it's unlikely that you connect with someone and you're automatically best friends, right? You might have had a few instances where like you connect with someone and you're automatically fast friends, but for the most part, you are just incubating that relationship, right? It's like a seedling, right, from the ground, and you're watching. It's like, how come nothing's coming out? It's not sprouting, right? And it takes time for it, and then eventually, poop, it kind of grows and it gets bigger and continues on. So those people that you haven't connected with since university, since high school, since whenever, the one that you did a term at a summer camp with and used to work at the local whatever, you can connect with them and maybe check in. How are you doing? Right? Give them an update on what you're doing. Ideally add value. Hey, I noticed that you posted on this. I would love to help you in this regard, right? And think of ways where you can add value to them. And if you have any kind of messages, well, we don't have a lot of time, but if you haven't, or if you want to reconnect, pick someone who you haven't connected with in over 4 months, right? Oftentimes that's an easy thing because a lot of stuff can happen in 4 months, right? And being able to reconnect, give them an update, is one where you stay connected. And there are people that are going to continue, and there are people that are going to ignore you, right? So for the ones that continue the conversation, continue the conversation. For those that don't, well, maybe give them another shot in another 4 months, another 4 months. But if after whatever 12 months they don't reconnect with you, kind of the 3 strikes rule, so 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, then you can kind of don't follow up with them afterwards, right? So by that follow-up will help you make things a little bit more meaningful, right? For those that are using it for job searching, right? Again, you want to make your profile searchable. Like I mentioned, all of the content that's on the different job postings that you're applying for, it needs to appear on your experience, ideally on your tagline, in your about section. The more that it appears, the algorithm picks it up more, right? So over vector on that. Try to use, like, again, that search engine optimization for your profile, right? Be alerts. So you can subscribe to job alerts within the tool, right? And it can notify you and based on what you're looking for. When you engage, again, the algorithm helps you both from a job searching perspective and from a being out there perspective, and then connect. When you are the one building meaningful connections, when you're the one who has that reputation of always helping, adding value, then opportunities tend to come your way. One thing I recommend, folks, is to have some goals, right? How many people will you connect with today, right? This week, this month, right? 1 a day. That should be pretty easy. You go in, LinkedIn has some suggestions, look at their profile, okay. Hit the personalized message, connect, and then off it goes, right? I typically say when you connect with 10 people, 6 will ignore you, 3 will say no, and 1 will change your life. And not necessarily in that exact proportion, but it could be whatever, 100 and then 99 and 1, but it's more than 0. And if you're not connecting, then you're obviously not going to be able to take that opportunity, right? So thinking about that, why are you connecting with them? It could be for a job, but ideally, if you're not connecting with a job and for a different purpose because you're curious and interested about their role, who has the job that you want? Wouldn't it be nice for you to know? And wouldn't you be nice to ask about the culture, about what kind of their day-to-day responsibilities, the tech stack they use, how they integrate with this and that? Wouldn't it be interesting to know that sort of stuff, right? And we start with making connections, but to make a connection a little bit more meaningful, usually it's not just through a text chat, Usually it's through a coffee chat, a Zoom chat, a virtual chat, and over time you're connecting with people, you're exchanging information and experiencing things together and adding value, and then that's when things become a little bit more meaningful. So you want to make all the connections quality connections, and then expand out to quantity, right? So the goal is to care. The goal is to make it about them. And when you do that, then I'm a firm believer in karma, as in the more you give, the more you receive. So I would start that by giving. And then when you give, there's going to be a windfall for you at the end, right? So how many people are you going to connect with daily? And ideally, how many people are you going to reconnect with as well? Because the benefit of those people is they're already part of your network. Now, all you have to do is incubate that, turn them into friends that you just haven't spent enough time with, right? And if you spend more time with, add more value with, then they eventually do become those friends, right? So you build, and this is the over time. So I encourage folks to set a calendar invite on the third Sunday of every month, right? To reconnect with people. So everyone in your current cohort, everyone on this call, right? What are they doing? And it'll pop up in, let's say, 5 months. So it pops up in August, says, boop, reconnect with Lukey. And you're like, what the? Yeah, what is Lukey up to? And then it'll pop up again. So August, it'll pop up again in like January. Boop, reconnect with Lukey. Oh, what is he doing? Did he release that app? Did he do whatever? And then it'll keep on going and going and going. And then that's how you develop relationships. Because a lot of people think that it's just arbitrary, but relationships develop with effort, right? You actually have to put in the time, right? And again, same thing, check in. How are you doing? Give an update what you're doing. And then ideally looking to add value to them would be a helpful thing. So that's kind of the brain dump of kind of LinkedIn information that I had for you. We have a couple minutes, and I would love to take any questions, or if there's anybody else that would love their kind of profile reviewed. I have a couple minutes afterwards to stay, depending on whether or not Navi has time as well. But what sort of questions, any particular instances or scenarios or situations that I could help you in terms of leveraging LinkedIn and to its kind of fullest potential?
For LinkedIn, for the particular profile, how can you make sure that the features have a picture? Because I've been trying to get that to work for certain projects that I want displayed there, and I can get it to work for LinkedIn, but I mean for GitHub, but that's about it.
That I'm not entirely sure, because I believe it's how the website is set, where depending on the website configuration, if they have like a default picture set up, it'll automatically choose that. I don't know if LinkedIn has a way of specifying that, so that'll probably be like a Google search or feature enhancement or something. So I don't know specifically how to put that exact picture that you want in the feature. What you could potentially do is, I don't know, create another page that has the picture that you want with the link that's there. Not ideal, but it might be one where if you're really focused on the picture that's there, then that could be another way to do it. So I don't know if anybody else here has ever tried. I haven't experimented enough with the different things. The ones that I've had just have already had the featured picture there, so they seem to work. So sorry, Ken, I don't have that specific detail.
That's fine. Thank you.
There's a question on, would web dev meetups be good on your LinkedIn? So I don't know if meetups themselves, because the fact that you just attended something, I mean, that shows something, but it's more like, well, what did that accomplish, right? If they had a way, I don't know, like an outcome where, I don't know, you participated in a quick like hackathon, a learnathon, or whatever it is, and there was a accomplishment or something that came out of it, it's probably good to include. Or if you've consistently attended these meetups, you're a contributor, you help organize, those are the type of things where I would encourage you to put those on. But the fact that you just attended a whole bunch of it, well, I guess it's better than not. But I would encourage you, the more that you can demonstrate that you have the ability to do things, that's the more likely that it would be better received, right? Because if you think about it, the fact that you attend something, I don't know if you actually learned anything, or I don't know if you actually did anything by having gone to it, right? But in lieu of not having attended, it's probably better than nothing. Hopefully that answers the question, Bill.
Luki, that was such a powerful workshop. There's so many nuggets of information there. I love your approach on LinkedIn and different strategies. I think that not just developers, I think professionals can implement. I didn't even, I've been on LinkedIn for so long, I didn't even realize that you can use keywords. It's, sometimes tools are so obvious, but yet we don't explore their full potential or full features, and how do we utilize some of these things that are so easy to just make them work for us. So I think a lot of the information that you shared was absolutely, I learned something new. I'm sure everyone in this call did. I do unfortunately have another engagement. I've been back-to-back Zoom calls today, so if I'm okay staying for another 5 minutes if anyone has more questions for Lukey. I did get that list of scholarships that I didn't have earlier, so I do want to quickly drop that off in the chat as well. So if you do fit into any of those categories, you can get a full 100%, so you can get a full ride. I did want to mention that quickly, but I want to maybe leave another 5 minutes. If you feel comfortable opening up your mic and just asking Lukey some more questions, or leaving it in chat, whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, and hopefully you've been able to find my LinkedIn or connected with me in the chat, and happy to take questions afterwards for those that are a little too shy to be on camera here.
I have one quick question. You had
Sure.
mentioned being introverted and shy at first. That's one thing that I struggle immensely with, is putting myself out there. I have a little bit of social anxiety, sort of, I've always been socially awkward when speaking with people. Do you have any tips or advice on how to overcome that?
Yeah, so a lot of folks, and myself included, kind of labeled ourselves, right? So I'm naturally an introvert, right? Which a lot of folks misunderstand the definition, right? So an introvert is someone who gets their energy from a small group of people, right? So me, one-on-one, and I'm sure a lot of you here, one-on-one, you're fine. You're great. We have a great time. Two-on-one, it's pretty good. Three, four-on-one, it starts getting a little more dicey. Once there's about 5 or 6 people, I kind of like, I kind of fade into the background. That's
Exactly.
me.
You go into a shell, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other part is the shy part, right? So shy is whether or not you initiate or not, right? And in my experience, that's just a cultivated skill, because like how many times have you had to initiate, right? Like most of the times you probably hadn't. Just like do you know how to play the piano?
No.
Right. So if I said go play,
yeah,
how likely are you going to be any good? But if I just say, okay, go connect, and then connect, and connect, and connect, and little by little, you get a little better. You start with like chopsticks, or whatever, or jingle bells, or whatever, and then eventually you're playing Mozart or Chopin, right? So same with kind of getting out there. Like the first time I got out there, yeah, I remember a case. The story that I usually share is in university we had these like little study cubes, where it's just kind of like a desk with like 3 walls on the side. So I would go to class, the study cube, and it was a very lonely university career. So I decided to have a conversation with someone beside me, and it sucked. It was a horrible, awkward conversation, right? But what I did is say, okay, what did I do well? Probably not much, but what could I have done better? Oh, you want to break the ice first, right? You don't want to just jump into a conversation. And I did that. The next conversation was better. It still wasn't good, but it was better. It was better and better. So one of the things or the tricks that I recommend is what I call asking for foolishness, right? So what it is you know the answer to it, but you ask anyways. So in Toronto, we have the street called Yonge Street. It's the longest street in the world. So you're walking on Yonge Street and you go to someone and say, excuse me, can you tell me where Yonge Street is? Right? And then they smile at you and it's like, oh, you're on it right now. And you're like, oh, thanks. And you just keep on going. And you get used to the feeling of like, you're so dumb. you're basically an idiot, right? That sort of thing, right? And then you start getting used to it, because that's oftentimes what I didn't like. I didn't want people to judge and feel like, oh, he's saying something stupid or dumb. So I purposely said stuff on stupid, right? I purposely did that to say, oh, it doesn't really mean much, right? And then the more you do it, just like when you exercise, like, yeah, you start with a 1 pound weight and then a 5 pound weight and then a 10, and then soon you're like benching your whole own body weight. But that doesn't happen overnight, right? So yeah, like you can, and I'm a living testament. But like I said, after the session, I'm glad this is over, and I got to go recharge and do something else on my own, right? So if you want to, you can do that. Yeah, for Doug who put exposure therapy, yeah, that's pretty much what it is, right? Unfortunately, I haven't found like this one hack where you'll instantaneously do it. It's more like building a muscle. It's like a skill you have to train. So yeah, cool.
Thanks.
My pleasure. So yeah, hopefully all of you go out there and start caring for folks on LinkedIn, and then having a great time kind of leveraging the power of the platform. And if I could be of help, then let me know.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that talk. Lukey, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. That was a powerful LinkedIn Demystified. I hope it's a little bit easier for everyone to send connections and have more meaningful conversations.
Thanks for hosting, and thanks Mintbean, and thanks everyone for joining, especially the ones that were on camera. I really appreciate that. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luca. You too.
Bye.